Welcome to our next episode of Cities Speak. I'm Clarence Anthony, your host and CEO and Executive Director of the National League of Cities. We are kicking off June with a special Pride Month episode. And it's so special because it's someone that I know, followed in political networks, and now I'd say a colleague in the movement of helping leaders to be able to get elected, and also just helping leaders who historically hadn't been at the table find themselves at the table in their communities. So everyone, today I'm so excited to talk with and to learn from Annise Parker, the former mayor of Houston, Texas, and the current president of the Victory Fund. Hello, Mayor. How you doing?
Hello. I am doing very well, and I'm happy to speak to you. It's a great way to kind of get ready for Pride Month.
Well, I always say, as a former mayor, always mayor. So if I go in and out of saying Mayor Parker or Annise.
You can call me Annise, you can call me Mayor Parker, but I use the title professionally because my work with Victory is with candidates and office holders, and to show them that I know what their life is like and what they're going through. It's helpful to actually have that lived experience, and the title is an example of that.
Yeah, I even see that in my role as CEO of the National League of Cities. I was a former mayor, and one of the things that was interesting, I always felt they wouldn't hire a former mayor as the CEO of the National League of Cities. And it was interesting looking at your journey and how you got into public life was interesting. But that former mayor title sometimes get people like, oh, you actually ran a city or so?
Well, so if you can run a city, you can pretty much run anything. Let's just get that out of the way right there. Mayors tend to be pragmatic policy wonks, and we like to get stuff done. It's frankly why a lot of mayors don't go on to run for legislative bodies or Congress, because they like to get stuff done. Okay, that's my snarky comment for today.
Well, the thing is, it is great to be able to see you in this role because it's obvious that Victory Fund is a needed organization, because if we look back in 1991, we saw at all levels there was nearly 50 openly LGBTQ plus elected officials across America. And so when you were able to take over this role, the attention was to try to get more candidates for public office. Are you seeing that happen more around America?
Absolutely. There are just under 1,100 out LGBT elected officials now. Now, we know that there are more, but these are the ones that we've been able to identify, that publicly accept that they're part of the community. More and more folks run every year. Part of it is, 2018 was a watershed year for all sorts of marginalized communities. The 2016 election shocked a lot of folks. And so you had folks, more women, more candidates of color, more first generation Americans, more LGBT candidates ran for the first time. We just had a flood of candidates on the ballot. The LGBT community was obviously a part of that. But also what's happening is that success breeds success. If you see people in these roles, if you see that folks have had success running, you're more apt to want to take the plunge yourself. That huge surge of candidates in 2018 was good for us. A lot of first-time candidates, let's be frank, lose. And part of what we do at Victory, we are Victory Fund, and then we are also Victory Institute. We have a C3 side, is that we train candidates and we work with people who want to run for office. And so if we didn't pick you for an endorsed candidate on the fund when you were actually running, maybe it's because you need a little more training. Maybe you need to pick a different race. Sit down and work with us, because our job at Victory is to put more LGBT leaders into the political pipeline. We don't do lobbying, we don't do policy, we just do people. And while we love and respect our allies, we don't. That's not our mission. And we don't just do elected office. We also have a team that works on putting people into appointed positions at the federal level. So you want to see people like you in office. That's what we've been doing for more than 30 years. But it's not just that. Feel that you have the right to be there. That you have the skills and the experience to get there. And so all of these things, and the fact that there's a group like Victory out there to help you, means that we have more and more candidates who run every year, and we have success. One of the things that we do on the C3 side is we maintain a map. It's called Out for America. So just internet search outforamerica.org, and it will show you information on every out LGBT elected official currently serving that we've been able to find. And you'll see that we are everywhere. And we're also a nonpartisan organization, so that you'll see, while we are heavily more on the left side of the aisle, that because LGBT folks are from every community, in every community, you'll see a pretty amazing geographic and political diversity if you look at the map.
You can listen to you talk about the Victory Fund and your passion and commitment. We saw it when you were mayor of Houston. You're doing it all across America now in terms of helping advance equality. And one of the things that I'd like our listeners to hear from you is about your journey. You were the first openly gay mayor in Houston, 6 years city council, 6 years as controller, and now your journey's got you here. What motivated you to serve and to do what you do?
So first of all, yeah, we had 2-year terms in Houston and 3-term limits. So 3 terms, 6 years as a council member, term limited. 3 terms, 6 years as a controller, term limited. 3 terms, 6 years as mayor, term limited. So yeah, what moved me up the pipeline? Term limits. But
It always works.
I am not a fan of term limits, but it pushed me to think about what I wanted to do and continue to serve. But the true answer to your question is, I had a family who really believed in civic engagement and volunteerism. And my parents and my grandparents, and let me just say, my mom and both my grandmothers worked outside the home. So I had very strong role models of women. You needed to educate yourself, you needed to be able to support yourself, and you had to give back to community. So they all volunteered. They were all very active in their church. And they were also, if there was a neighborhood cleanup or if there was some, a need, a crisis, they were volunteers. And when I was little, I was voluntold. And when I grew up, it became a part of who I was. And so, I didn't run for office, and I didn't win my first council seat until 1997. And I'd had a 20-year career in the oil and gas industry. But all that time I was working, I was an active community volunteer. And so running for office was just a logical next step, because it was a deeper level of work on the issues that I cared about.
Talk to us a little bit about, your process of being one of the first and making that decision to go out and run for the offices that you did, and how you're encouraging others. What advice do you give them?
Being a first is an opportunity and also a challenge. So I am noted as the first LGBT person to lead a major American city, but Houston's the fourth largest city in America. I was only the 10th woman in American history to lead a top 10 U.S. city. So every day I was conscious of being a role model as a woman, being a role model as member of the LGBT community who identifies as a lesbian, of but also as you, Mayor, just wanting to do a good job for my hometown, for my city. And it wasn't a burden, but it was a responsibility I acknowledged, and I think that that's important when you know that you're a first and you're willing to take that on. I mean, I didn't run to make a statement. I ran to make a difference in my community, but recognizing that I had certain responsibilities outside or to the broader community, and that I had to conduct myself accordingly. And it was just part of the whole. What it meant to be a mayor. Now, it was helpful to me that I'd already been in office 12 years, the 6 years as council member and the 6 years as controller. So I had an established public persona, and I kind of knew what to expect. I was startled, and what I've learned, and particularly in a big city where there's 24-hour media coverage, I was recognizable as the city controller or city council member, but I could never be anonymous again in Houston as mayor. And in a modern era where everybody has a recording device in their hands, there are no private moments in public for any elected official. So and mayors are so recognizable that I was conscious all the time when I was out of the house that yeah, someone could be recording, someone could be watching. It just it is just part of what you have to accept when you go into the job. And I would finally I would just say that I would do in my mind when I would take positions or think about how what was I was out in public and I'm doing something or other. Like, would I want to explain this to my grandmother? And if I can explain what I was doing to my grandmother, I didn't want to do it. We all have to have
It
some
is.
kind of voice like that in our heads.
Yeah, that was my mother. I'd say, would Mama be upset if she read about this in the newspaper? But it's so funny that you say that because sometimes I'm with my family and I'm joking around in the airport, and my wife will say, "You know, your mayor or your CEO, somebody's gonna know who you are." And as soon as I do something crazy, someone walks over and say, "Hello, Mayor Anthony, how are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I was just dancing in the airport."
Dancing in the airport, I think you can get away with. There's certain other, I didn't take a drink in public, and for the 18 years I was in office. I mean, I'm not a teetotaler, but I'm not a heavy drinker, obviously either. But it just wasn't worth it to me to be pictured with a glass of alcohol in my hand and not being sharp when I was in public. It was just a choice that I made.
No, it's you're representing the citizens of Houston, and you want to represent them in a positive way. So, I get that. Things have changed in public leadership over the years, as you've probably seen. We're seeing so much more incivility, attacks on local officials, personally, their family, at the grocery store. And then there is an increasing rise in anti-gay legislation we're seeing at state levels. How are you navigating those trends, and how has it impacted your work at the Victory Fund?
Politics is a blood sport. It has always been, but the tenor of what is acceptable publicly has changed. I mean, the Trump administration was a watershed for that. So too, the rise of social media. So much of the ugliness. If you take away social media, most people are still civil to your face. So that is uh, there has been a huge change for our candidates, and because we do candidate training, we try to prepare them for what campaigning is going to be like, what they might face, and it is exponentially worse for women than for male candidates. And again, that is just something you have to think about before you get in. Have a support network prepared, and then be ready for when it happens. And what I tell people all the time is don't doom scroll through social media. But you also have to recognize and be safe. I was a lesbian activist starting in the early 70s. I was just starting I was actually when I was in college and in my early business career. And I worked for a conservative Republican oil man. So it was like oil company employee by day, activist by night kind of thing. But I did a lot of things in a different era. And so I came in with the expectation of not being safe in a public place as an LGBT person. The kids who are growing up today, the people who are going into politics today and much younger generations have a different expectation. And this change in the public, the atmosphere in public spaces has shocked them. And it's kind of helpful to be able to say, look, I was there back in the day. These are the things you need to think about, and this is how you need to prepare. But what is shocking to me right now is a very recent phenomenon that, like State Representative Zoe Zephyr in Montana being expelled from the chamber for saying something that basically she said, if you pass this anti-trans bill, you'll have blood on your hands. I don't know how that's not part of the normal debate in a chamber, but to expel her and disenfranchise all of the people who voted for her, for the Justins in Tennessee, to expel them from the chamber, they may have done something. And in fact, I do think they did something that would warrant them being, censured or sanctioned by their body. But don't disenfranchise all of the people who voted for them. This is a new thing. And we as a people are going to have to figure out how we have a functioning democracy and everybody in the room, and tensions are high and the governors are off our mouths a little bit, but we cannot disenfranchise voters and expel duly elected folks for what I would say are frivolous reasons. I mean, everybody has rules of decorum, and you can enforce those rules of decorum, but barring some, egregious criminal act, no one should be thrown out of a chamber. And again, the Justins were not are not victory candidates. They're not gay men. But this kind of thing is happening in more and more places.
As you reflect on what they're going through, what would you tell the 1990 candidate for Houston City Council, Annise Parker? What would you go back and tell her? What kind of advice would you give?
Well, so first of all, I actually did run in 1991, and I ran in 1995, and I lost. So I ran two races for city council and lost, and then I figured out how to do it, and I won 9 consecutive races in the city. So what I would tell, and what I tell people every day is that running and losing there is no shame in running and losing as long as you run a good campaign and you speak truth to the issues. Everybody, I mean, we need people who are willing to stand up. So the advice would be, don't give up, and that the opportunity to serve is a great honor, and it is worth what you have to go through to get there. Campaigning and governing they're different things, and the brutality of a campaign it's different from the pressures of governing, but it's worth the journey to have the opportunity to serve. But the other thing I would say is that if you can't, don't take yourself too seriously. And you work with elected officials. I work with elected officials. Sometimes small positions, big egos. That that you're no different from your constituents, other than the fact that you have a title.
You talk about working with people. I was going to ask you this question. CEO of the city of Houston, and now President CEO of the Victory Fund. What's the similarities, and what do you see as the difference in terms of opportunities and challenges?
Oh, I love the fact that I don't have to be on a ballot myself. Going through reapplying for your job or for a job every 2 years it's challenging and stressful. And then running for office, there's not anything about running for office that I enjoyed. Some people will say, "Oh, I like meeting the people." I do like meeting people. Running for office is like a combination blind date job interview that goes on for months, and it's just not. It's stressful. So I don't have to do that. But I am running an organization. I have the responsibilities, and that aspect of after I left the mayor's office, I was very clear to me. I needed to be I needed to be in charge of something. I did not want to be in a legislative body. I wanted to be in charge of something, and I wanted to be in charge of something where I could see like both short-term and long-term results, which is very similar to being in the city. And Victory allows me to stay engaged in politics because we endorse candidates at every level of the ballot, all across the country. And our like strength, where we put most of our energies, is state house races and city council races. So I know this area, and so being able to really engage with folks and with from a shared experience is wonderful. I miss being mayor. I don't miss, again, the like the trappings of office. I don't miss city council. I don't miss like council meetings and then being in the chamber every week. But I miss the ability to have a direct impact on people's lives. But I appreciate with Victory the ability to help shape the candidates and make candidates successful, the candidates of the future who will lead their cities and their communities. And I can feel that sense of passing on a legacy.
I think that is interesting because now you have a microphone and a stage to be able to go broader than Houston and help a lot of people along the way and the citizens that are in these cities throughout America. You know, a lot of our listeners may be interested in trying to find out how do they get involved in the Victory Fund or how do they support the Victory Fund if they're interested. Why don't you talk a little bit about getting connected?
Our official title is LGBTQ plus Victory Fund and then LGBTQ plus Victory Institute. And it's victoryfund.org or victoryinstitute.org, the PAC and the C3. If you are an LGBT person who is running for office, uh, apply for an endorsement. We're a bundling PAC, which means that we identify candidates and spread the information about the candidates. And if you go to our website, you'll see all of the currently endorsed candidates this year. I think we'll get up to 150 or so. Last year we endorsed a little over 500 candidates, but last year we tracked 1,100 LGBT candidates across the country. We screened 750 of them. We endorsed exactly 500, and so we are an engaged PAC. And if you're excited about the idea of maybe supporting school board candidates across the country who are LGBT and want to fight against the removal of pro-LGBT books, or you can go in and pull up all those candidates. If you want to support candidates, we have separate funding streams to support candidates of color and women candidates. You can go in and say, show me all the women who are running for city council across LGBT women who are running for city council, and support them. On the Institute side, our work is about training candidates. We have a really excellent candidate campaign training. We have leadership development programs for current elected officials who are LGBT. We have an internship program on Capitol Hill. And we also do political trainings in other countries. We do grant work for the USAID and the State Department to do training. We don't endorse candidates in other countries, but we teach them how to run for office. I mean, we believe that democracy is better and stronger when everyone is represented, and everyone means also those who are in the LGBTQ community. But as I said earlier, I mean, we're part of every community. Our candidates are 30% more diverse than the general candidate pool. Significantly more candidates of color who also identify as LGBT who run and win successfully. So we work to make sure that they have the opportunity to bring all their amazing rainbow intersectional selves into the legislative bodies of their choice. But we also expect them to to serve. I do a lot of candidate training now, and I also talk to a lot of people who think about running for office. And people come up to me and say, I want to run for office someday. And the short answer is, no one cares that you want to run for office. They want to know what you want to do in service. So what you need to figure out is, an office is a tool, it's not a destination. So what tool is it that you want to take into your hand? What are you doing to prepare yourself to pick up that tool? And what are you going to do with it when you get there? And democracy is alive and well in America. Sometimes it's frustrating when you look at what's happening in Washington or sometimes in the state capitals. But at the local level, it absolutely is alive and well, and people care, and they want to serve their neighbors. They want to serve their constituents, and we, all of us, have a responsibility to help them to do that and to be a part of it and make informed choices about who we send into these positions.
Wow. I'm so inspired by your journey. First of all, I've followed you for years and have seen your leadership as mayor. And now watching and hearing your voice as CEO of the Victory Fund is more inspiring. And so I'm sure our subscribers and our listeners have gotten a lot out of this conversation. And democracy is stronger when everyone is represented. It's something that I'm going to use somewhere again. I may give you credit for it the first time.
Because it ought to be a truism for all of us.
I agree. Thank you so much, Mayor Parker, CEO Parker, for your time and helping everybody to learn about the Victory Fund and allowing us to lift up your voice and kick off Pride Month in this June. So we appreciate you and continue on your journey of serving America and leaders throughout America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Anthony.
Thanks for listening to City Speak with Clarence Anthony. If you like this show, let us know. Share this episode with your friends and make sure to subscribe. We're curious to hear what you think, what you want more of, and how we can improve. If you have feedback or an idea for a guest you'd like Clarence to sit down with, send us your thoughts at cityspeakpodcast@nlc.org. Join us next month for a new episode. Like and subscribe here or wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.